Hey moving athletes, welcome to part 2 of our video. If you haven't already seen part 1, please check that video over here to the right. Now we're heading into progression 7, which will be the wall walks. And we'll start this in the straight arm plank position, facing away from the wall. And the first movement will be to lift the foot onto the wall, match the second one there, and you're simultaneously walking backwards towards the wall while your legs walk up the wall. You hit handstand, and then reverse coming back down by walking the feet down and the hands forwards. So in this, we're practicing walking and going to a familiar position, which is the chest facing handstand at the wall. We'll look at progression number 8, which is the single arm handstand at the wall, and this will be a chest facing the wall. So we can get in a variety of different ways. We can do a cartwheel up, we can do a wall walk up. In this case, we'll do the cartwheel up, and then we'll pay attention to what the hips have to do. So as we shift weight on the one hand, notice that the hips start to get on top of the hand, and the body is straight and tight. Okay, so watch for the hips. They've got to go on top of the hand, and trying to avoid as much curving or bending the hips as possible. And now this is an important progression because, as I mentioned earlier, when doing handstand walks, you will be on one arm briefly. This is addressing a strength component when doing wall walks in really any direction because you'll be on one arm, whether you're walking forwards, backwards, or sideways. The 9th progression will be the planche and reverse planche movement at the wall. So when doing handstand walks, you've got to be able to learn how to exhibit different shoulder angles in different directions when walking forwards or backwards or trying to save a handstand. So we'll do this drill at the wall. To get into this position, we'll get into a handstand at the wall. The further away your hands are from the wall, the more difficult this will be, and the closer to the wall, the easier this will be. So walking up the wall. So the first thing that we've got to do once we're set in this position is lean the shoulders forwards in front of the hands, glide off the wall, find handstand, and then repeat. Good. We're keeping the body straight. The only thing changing is the shoulder angle. So we're playing around with different shoulder angles, finding how to balance it, and then get into the stacked handstand. Now we can do the reverse version. We're calling this a reverse planche, where we have our back facing the wall, and we'll do a similar action. Okay, so now the first thing we'll do is kick up to the wall with our back facing the wall. And we're trying to keep a tight arch position once we get into this, but first thing we're doing is trying to push the armpits away from the wall, find handstand, and then come back to it again. So there's a slight tight arch in this in terms of the shape change. We're opening the shoulder angle, finding the stacked handstand, and then coming back to the wall again. So this one is more so a bigger prerequisite in the shoulder mobility side and less of the strength side actually, other than you have got to keep your core much tighter than you think you do. So again, the further away from the wall you are, the more difficult it is, and the closer to the wall, the easier that it is. We're doing the lateral handstand walks at the wall. We'll kick up first in the chest facing the wall direction and shift the weight outside the hand and take lateral, meaning sideward steps, into a certain width. And then reversing back in the other direction. So in these progressions we have for you in this series, we're walking not only forwards and backwards, but also sidewards. We'll show you a couple of alternate entries into this progression. So we'll start with the chest facing the wall, move back to the wall, pivot so we are oblique to the wall, and then use that foot and wall as the guardrail and carry on walking forwards. Okay, so now we're going to go into the back facing the wall, handstand kick up, pivot, and then walk forwards. So we'll make contact, pivot, keep the foot at the wall, and walk forwards as we have been. Now notice we're also trying a different direction, so it's a good idea to try your right foot against the wall as well as the left foot. We recommend doing this progression with either socks on to reduce friction at the wall or shoes to protect the feet. So we'll be standing oblique to the wall, kicking up the handstand, getting control, and then walking forwards with one foot out to the side. So we'll use the wall as a guide rail and walk forwards while keeping that foot right up against the wall for support. And then coming together, walking the feet back down, stand back up. So when doing the shoulder taps or the hip taps, you want to make sure that we're leaning the hips over top of the hand because we're on one arm briefly and need to make sure that we're balanced. So as you shift weight side to side, you take your hand off and you tap your shoulder on the same side that it's coming from. And then for the hip taps, you're on one arm, usually for longer. So you've got to make sure that the hip lean on top of the hands is a little bit more emphatic, and you will make sure that you make contact hand to thigh and alternate each side. Thank you for watching our handstand walking video where we showed you 13 progressions of how you can go from the plank position, learn how to shift weight, and advance all the way up into the freestanding forward walk on the floor. So we related a lot of this to how you walk on the feet, and we modeled it after those kinds of movements and learned how to shift the body weight correctly rather than being loose and uncontrolled, but rather purposeful, tight, incremental. And we touched on how you can develop skill work for control and technique, as well as the strength progressions to make sure you master something before moving on to the next, and endurance to making sure that you can do something for longer, such as the different shoulder taps or different walks for a longer period so you can endure it for longer. So thank you for watching this. We've got other videos on what defines the perfect handstand walk and much more. And if you haven't already, go to our website, themovementathlete.com. That way you can fill out the free assessment. We'll send you back the results, and you can be on your way to having an individualized training program. And if you haven't already done this, make sure you subscribe to our channel. That way you don't miss any update. All right, thanks everybody. Catch us in our next video. Really quick, if you want to get started with calisthenics but are unsure of how to do so, I highly recommend trying our free calisthenics assessment. It will only take you 5 minutes to complete. You'll receive a detailed, personalized training program, complete with recommendations and workouts you can use right away. If you found these videos helpful, please click the like button below and leave any comments or questions you might have in the comment section below. See you next time.